Right, welcome back. So in this video, we are going to continue with the databases section that we have started in the last one. So in the last video, I'd basically seen an introduction to what a database is and what are the types of databases, which was basically relational and non-relational, right? And so in this video, we are going to actually start with Mongo, which is the database that we're going to follow for this whole course, right? And so first of all, the only thing that like I need to put in the slides for this is that it is the most popular non-relational database out there, right? And just to revise, a non-relational database is a database that does not rely on like tables and all, and it is more flexible as the data is stored in formats like JSON, right? Great. So it's the most popular non-relational database out there, and yeah. So let's now just start doing that. So if you're on your local machine, if you're set up a local environment, then you'll actually have to download the Mongo from from their official site. Like if you go to their official site and then you go to the documentation, then you'll have this guides tab right here. So here you can see they've given this install MongoDB link, and you can check this out. It says 10 minutes, right? So you can do this, but if you're on Goon, then you don't have to do any of this, because while creating the container, we actually selected the option of installing Mongo beforehand. So, and just to check, even if you have installed it now, like if you have not installed it yet and you're on a local machine, I recommend that you pause the video and install it right now. And once you come back, then you can run this command, which is mongod. And as long as it is giving you something like this weird long thing, means your Mongo is correctly running and you are now good to go. Right. So first of all, what exactly is this mongod that I ran here? Right. It is actually just a process. It is a D stands for daemon, right? So Mongo daemon, which is spelled like this. So basically, this is a process that will always be running in the background whenever you are working with Mongo, even if it's through your Node app or from the console, which we'll see, right? So MongoD should always be running in the background, and hence now we'll start having two terminals at all times. Even if we are like stopping the server multiple times, we can't stop MongoD as long as we are using Mongo, right? So what you can do is you can open a new terminal from here, from window, new terminal window. Just wait for it to start. And once it does, you can run MongoD, right? And yeah, so now it's stable, meaning that the process has been started. So now what we can do is we can go down here, and I'll do clear first. And now to run Mongo, you can basically use two methods, right? Like Node or like JavaScript. The first is using the console, right? You open the Mongo console inside our terminal, and we can access the Mongo commands from there. The second is from your own code, which we'll use most of the time. Just like Node, we had a Node console, but we didn't use it ever, right? Similarly, we have a Mongo console, which we will not use ever. But I mean, most of the times you will use it for debugging and checking at a lot of times, but we will not use it for production, right? For production, we'll mostly be writing code to alter the Mongo from inside the code files. So that we're going to see later, because that is a little complex and that involves a lot of steps. But what we're going to see in this video is how you can use the Mongo console, right? And that's actually pretty simple. Once your Mongo daemon is running in the background, then what you can do is you can simply type Mongo, and this will take you into your Mongo shell, right? And if the prompt changes to something like this, the arrow, right, from this whole big thing that we had here, right, then means you have entered your Mongo console successfully. So now let's see the basic commands that you can have inside this, right? So first of all, whenever you are working in Mongo, you will have a database, right? So obviously Mongo is a database, but what a database means is that like when you are working with the project, each project can have like one database associated with it. So let's say we're working with Blogify here. So what will happen is Blogify will have its own database, and inside which we'll have all the data relating to that. And then you might have a separate database for some separate site, and all the data related to that site will be stored inside that particular database, right? So first thing that we can do whenever we enter the Mongo console is we can see all the databases that are actually present right now by doing show DBs, right? And we see there are four. There are four in my machine because I've actually run this once, but there will be three in yours. This admin, config, and local will be always present, right? So now, of course, we do not have the database that we need now. We are not going to change anything inside these three default databases, right? So let's make a new database by the name of test, right? And the thing is that you don't actually have to make it. What you have to do is you can simply do use test, and that creates your database for you. And you can see it says switch to db test. So this use command is the command that you'll always have to run whenever you are entering a new Mongo console. And that is because whenever you enter the console, you are currently in the global space, right? And if you want to actually run some commands, you want to tell Mongo that I want to run the commands inside this particular database. So that is what the use command does. I've done use test, meaning that I'm now inside the test database. And if I wanted to use this test DB, I could do use test DB, and that switches me to test DB, right? So this is the second command that you'll do. I'll switch back to test, right? And so now I'm inside the test folder. And now I can start running more of my commands. So the next thing that the structure of Mongo contains is a collection, right? So if you think of it like a flowchart, the most broad thing is the database, right? Which is basically the project. It contains all the data relating to the project. The next is a collection. So what a collection is basically grouping similar data of the same project together. What do I mean? That let's consider the example of Blogify that we're going to build, right? So we already know that we'll have blogs and we'll have users, we'll have comments. These are the three basic things that we'll be having in our code, right? So according to this model, we'll be having three collections inside the database. So our database will be named Blogify, inside which we will have three collections. One which will be named posts, next will be comments, and next will be users. So all the data related to the posts will be stored inside the post collection. All the data relating to the comments will be stored inside the comments collection, and all the data relating to the users will be inside the users collection, right? So whenever you move inside a database, you can run this command to actually see the collections that you have, which is show collections, right? And currently it does not return anything because our database test is actually a new database, and hence it does not have any collections made yet. But if I switch to test DB here, and then I did show collections, I can see I have a test collection which I had made beforehand, right? So this is the kind of format that you'll get your output if you have actually got a collection. So I'll switch back to test. I'll do show collections again. And I currently have nothing. So now comes the actual adding and removing of data. And like one of the best things that I like about Mongo is that it does everything, a lot of things by itself, right? So here you see that I wrote use test. And even though I didn't have this database, this was added by default, right? So I didn't have to write a separate command to make this database. Similarly, the case goes for collections. A collection will show up as soon as you add some data relating to that. And how do you actually do that? I know that's confusing. So here inside the documentation, we have a lot of links. It says structure your data, install MongoDB, secure your MongoDB deployment. So you don't actually have to visit any of these right now because we're already going to see all of that. But what you can do is we can visit this connect to MongoDB thing, right? I'll click on the shell because this is also known as the shell, right? Now next I'll go down and I can see that I have like this CRUD is a really common acronym which is like create, read, update, and delete. Because you can imagine that these are probably the four most fundamental features of any website and any data, right? You might want to create data, you might want to read data, you might want to update it, or you might want to delete. And so yeah, this is a really common acronym, right? So let's click on insert data into MongoDB. And you can ignore all of this above, right? because we've already done something like that. So here you can see they're switching to the test database by writing use test. And the next what they're doing is they're doing db.inventory.insert1. And let me just copy this and I'll paste this and then I'll explain what this actually means. Now I paste this, right? So this was basically our command, and what I've got after this, these 4 lines are actually the response. So what this command basically means, right? Let's break this down. So we have db.inventory.insert1. So to first of all, db dot will always be common, right? Because now we have moved inside a database. So db is referring to that particular database. So we are saying that everything that's happening after this is to be done inside the current database, which is test, right? So this is what the db dot stands for. The next is inventory. So what is this inventory? To show you that, I'll run the show collections again. And you see I've got a new collection which is named inventory. So what you have here is basically the collection name, which could be anything. You could change this to posts, and a new collection by the name of posts will be created, right? And yeah, that's they've taken inventory for an example. You could take anything, it doesn't matter, right? All right. The next is dot insert one. So insert one is basically the function that you will use to add a new entry, one new entry into your database, right? Into your database inside the collection inventory. So I did insert one, and then you give this array, right? This object. So this is basically the representation that you have for a Mongo data, right? This is one set of data. So this is now stored inside the inventory collection, this thing, and you can refer to this object from this inventory collection whenever you want. And even if I close this right now, if I close this terminal once, right, I can press Control plus C to close the terminal. Then I can use to Mongo yet again. I'll use test. Then I'll do show collections. And I can see I still have the inventory collection, right? Means my data did not, I did not lose my data when I actually restarted my whole server. So this is actually like stored on a folder somewhere. So that folder is /data/db, right? And if you're installing Mongo locally, then you will have a really good idea of what /data/db is. And right. So basically, this is not stored in this particular running instance of the Mongo client, right? It is stored in some folder, and hence, even if you close the server and then you restart, you always have access to that one folder on your computer, right? And hence, that is helpful, right? So we have the collection still, and we'll go back to that command, and we can see that after the insert one in the bracket, so insert one is a method, right? I gave my object to be inserted, and it got inserted into my collection. Great. So this was the way you could actually insert an element to your collection. And if I do this again, let's do the same command again. If I do the same command again, and I'll change the item to, let's say, first off, I'll change the quantity to 90, and I'll change the item to, let's say, paint. And if I click OK, now if I do show collections, I see that I still only have one collection. And that is basically because when we do db dot this collection name, right, what happens is Mongo first checks if the collection is already present. If it is, then it simply adds the data to that particular collection. So from this previous command, we already had this inventory collection present, and hence what this line did was it added a simple new data to that collection. But if that collection is not already present, then it is made and the data is added to it, right? So a lot of things are done by default. The next, so now this was the way of actually inserting data. Let's see how you can see all the data inside of it, right? And that is actually really easy. What you can do is db.inventory.find. And you see I get my two things that are inside my database, right? So one is this underscore ID. We'll actually see what underscore ID is in the next video, and because like we'll use it in the next video, and that's why you'll get its use better then, and that's why I'm not actually introducing that in this one. So you see I have the item canvas and item paint present here, and I can use that as I want to, right? So dot find is a command that returns all of them, and you could also alter this find command to give an object inside of this, by which you can give the thing that you want to look for. You want to look for item, which is canvas. And if I press this, I get only one result back, which is the like result in which the item was canvas, right? So this is basically, I'm running over all of this really quickly this time because we're not going to use the Mongo shell a lot, right? And what we're going to use is the code. So I'll spend a lot more time on the code when we're discussing that. Currently, I'm just showing you that by using some methods inside this, you can actually traverse your whole database and see what's happening, right? So that's basically what I'm trying to show you here. So find and insert are the two commands that we saw right now. The next we're going to see update and delete, right? Because if you remember, we had the CRUD operations, which was create, read, update, and delete. So create and read have been done by using insert one and find respectively. So update and delete we'll see in the next video, right? So that's all for this one. I'll see.